the energy to cut expenses, in my opinion, could be the same energy to increase income.
Financial freedom from some might be $500,000, it might be $750,000, it might be $1 million, it might be $3 million. Whatever that lifestyle is for you to win your time back, that's your financial freedom. Most of the time, people are waiting for the government to give them a handout.
A lot of people don't like change, but that's exactly what they need in their life.
One of life's strangest contradictions, the busiest people always find time while the laziest are always busy.
Let's get this money. Those dollar bills getting this on out of. Let's get this money. 1 year, better know I'm on it.
What's cracking, everybody? Money Smart Guy Matt Sapaula here, hailing to you from Dallas, Texas, and welcome back to another 7 Figure Squad podcast. Joining me in studio today is my man, my business partner here in a Dallas, Texas office, relocated from Nolens, Kendrick Williams.
What's going on, Matt?
I'm glad you're back, brother. Listen, reorient everybody with your background. I know you were on in one of the early podcasts. Tell everybody, your career background briefly, and why did you decide to move to Dallas of all places?
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me again, right?
For sure.
On the
Welcome
podcast.
back, yeah.
But I come from a mental health background. Grew up in New Orleans. Did what my parents told me to do. Get good grades, go to school.
Yeah.
In New Orleans, it was rough, man. So
Yeah.
either you play sports or entertainment, or you wind up in trouble. So I went to school and got my psychology degree. And from there, it was I did that for over 12, 13 years. And I always wanted to be independent and build a business for myself. And this opportunity fell in my lap, and met some great people like you, Swazzles, all the great people, and and you guys have been very helping in my life, right?
It's awesome, bro.
Yeah.
So you were at one point making what, 65, 70,000 a year?
Yes.
You're earning it. You got a job, clocking in, clocking out.
Yeah.
But that desire, that itch that you need to scratch, that entrepreneurial itch, I gather you'd say, right? Because you just wanted more out of your life. Now you're racking in what, $350, closing at $400,000 a year cash flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad.
4 years in the game, man.
Most people are $400,000 in debt after 4 years. You went 400,000 positive. But I'm glad that you're here because we have some interesting topics to discuss today. If you're tuning in, we have several topics here. 85% of Americans are willing to raise taxes to save Social Security. So we talk about that. 11 cities where home prices are falling, not increasing, but falling the most. And U.S. workers are staying put as fewer quit their jobs. What's going on with your neck of the woods for those of you watching this? Are more people in your neck of the woods staying put and not relocating? Baby boomers. Interesting thing here. Baby boomers are refusing to hand over $84 trillion of wealth to their children. Yeah, that's why we're in the financial services business, bro. You close some rollovers, right, in your business.
Yeah. Man, I was on a meeting not long ago, and a guy, he said he lost about 20, 30 grand.
Wow.
In the last 24 months.
Yeah.
So we're looking to help him really soon.
Yeah, we were on the phone last week. Sheena was on the phone with a 7-year-old gentleman, retired, and he's literally crying to Sheena on the phone. I'm not a businessman. I don't know what's going on in my retirement account. I lost $30,000. I don't know. He's literally crying. I don't know what to do.
Wow.
Right? So we're going to discuss what people can do if they're fearful about losing their hard-earned savings due to fluctuations, dips in the stock market. Paycheck to paycheck nation. We're no longer a nation that saves. Obviously, we've been that for a while, but 59% of Americans, if they had emergency today, wouldn't cover $1,000 expense in emergencies with their savings. Guess where it's going on if they don't have $1,000 in savings? Gen Z, I'm going to be reacting to this video. Gen Z are taking specific classes to upgrade their ability to make phone calls. Kendrick.
Wow.
You're a millennial.
Yeah.
Right? And so I remember when I was in my mid-20s, 30s, they're talking about, millennials coming up. In other words, the younger generation, because I'm Generation X. The sexiest generation ever created in the history of humankind by God. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. That's why it's accurate. We invented house music. A lot of babies were born through the music of the 80s and the 90s. Biggie, Tupac, you name it. But, I mean, our generation, we were complaining about the millennials. And guess what the millennials are complaining about today? The Gen Z.
Gen Z,
It just happens. You know, every generation has this. But Gen Z right now, we're going to be reacting to this video. You'd be surprised what people are saying about Gen Z in terms of making phone calls. A couple other videos we reacted to. Joe Rogan is exposing how U.S. aid is laundering your tax dollars. This is going to be a wild video to see where your money, our money, is going. And Bill Maher concedes that Trump is probably right about scrapping the Department of Education. I love your reaction to this because you're an educated man.
Yeah.
And so we're going to unpack that too as well. So, all right, let's go over the first one. 85% of Americans are willing to raise taxes to save Social Security. New survey for the National Academy of Social Insurance, AARP, the National Institute of Retirement Security, and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce found that 85% of respondents believe Social Security benefits should stay the same or even increase, even if that means raising taxes on some or all Americans. Only 15% preferred keeping tax rates the same, even if that means reducing benefits. Tyler Bond, Research Director of National Institute of Retirement Security, emphasized that Social Security is the foundation of retirement security in the United States and that Americans prioritize closing the funding gap to prevent indiscriminate benefit cuts. So, Social Security. Did you go into business for yourself, Kendrick, to say, man, I can't wait to be 62, 65 years old, or you're born after 1970, so your full retirement age is after 67 years old.
Yeah.
Are you busting your tail right now to eventually retire on Social Security?
No, not at all, man. That's the reason why we do what we do as entrepreneurs. I do see the other side of, people who go to work 9 to 5. Because, I didn't know anything about retirement or the 4% rule until I actually got into finances. Right. So with that being said, that lets you know it's a retirement crisis.
100%.
It's a retirement
100%.
crisis. So 85%, that's a big number. They're looking like, hey, and most of them have been working since 18 and funding Social Security.
Yeah.
So, they have a connection there where, hey, let's do what we got to do to keep it around. Because think about the person who's been working since 18, 19 until they 60. I just can't work no more, and they need that Social Security. So I get that part of it, and for entrepreneurs, that's not what we're dependent on. So yeah.
I think that the traditional knowledge, the traditional recommendation. We do workshops at our office. I mean, Kendrick, how often do we do workshops?
Twice a week.
Twice a week,
maybe even 3 times a week.
Right. Yeah. And what's the common feedback you get from people that are there at workshop? I mean, we'll have maybe 50 to 100 people at our workshops every Tuesday, Saturday.
Yeah.
Our business partner, Andrew Gaines, does it. He'll have another 50 people there on Wednesday. Yeah. Our other business partner, Curtis and Spring Eman, they do it on Thursday now. Yeah. They've got another 50 people coming in there. So between let's say our 50. So we have 100 people coming through our offices 4 times. We do it every week. 400 to 500 people come through our offices. Times 12. That's 6,000 people that come through our office. Yeah. On a yearly basis. So I think we have a good pulse of what's going on in multicultural middle income demographic, right? Yeah. What's the common thing you hear for people coming there of what they're going through?
I mean, they're looking for a solution. Like you say, I mean, so many Americans living paycheck to paycheck, don't have $1,000 in savings. It is a small investment to start a business, and a large percent, more than 50 people say, "Hey, I don't have it to even start, but I want to start so bad." Yeah. So that's letting you know what's going on with the economy and what's going on with people's savings and how much money they actually have access to.
Would you say the average age of your client is?
Maybe about 31, okay. 30 in the 30s, so early 30s.
Early 30s, okay. And now they come across you, they do a financial lifestyle strategy. You sit down with them and see what their financial picture looks like. And obviously they want to get financially ahead. They say, okay, Kendrick, I get it. I need to start saving my money. What do they start saving? What monthly savings amount? What's their monthly contribution?
Maybe about 150, 150, $100 to 150.
And what do you think they're going to get with that?
Not much. That much. So they have a decision, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a decision. You can stay a victim of the economy.
Yeah.
Or you can find a way to increase your income.
Right.
Right. And that's the solution we give them.
Yeah. I mean, there's only so much expenses you can cut.
Yeah.
I get people want to live life, right? They're going to spend money and then and we can discipline them on their consumer habits, which is a good significant reason why they're living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
But there's only so much you can cut from where you live. There's so much you can cut in terms of internet and cell phone and Starbucks and all this stuff, where it gets to be, people start living life the way they want to. So the energy, I would say, Kendrick, right? The same energy that we coach people to cut and to, it's discipline either way.
Yeah.
But the energy to cut expenses, in my opinion, could be the same energy to increase income. And that's much more exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like imagine Swaz will come to you, hey, Kendrick, you want to get financial hit, bro? You got to cut $500 from your budget on a monthly basis and save the difference.
Yeah. Basically, you're telling somebody they have to decrease their life,
Sure.
limit their lifestyle to save more money.
Yeah.
Why would you want to do that when you have the opportunity to make more money?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's either decrease your lifestyle, be a victim of the economy, or find a way to make more money.
Yeah, what are you decreasing your lifestyle to, though? That's the traditional advice, right? But what are you really decreasing to? Poverty?
Right.
To live in less safe neighborhoods?
Right.
To not have a car? And here in Dallas, there's not an effective public transportation system.
No.
Some cities you have to drive. I get maybe in Chicago, New York, you don't have to drive, but you can walk.
Yeah.
But what was your excitement going from 70,000? How does it go now to being a reality, brother, where instead of making $70,000 a year, now you're basically making that every 2 months?
Yeah. It's been, we work really hard to get where we at, and it's been exciting, man. So I believe financial independence is whatever lifestyle. I just was talking about that lifestyle. Some financial freedom from some might be $500,000. It might be $750,000. It might be $1 million. It might be $3 million. It might be whatever that lifestyle is for you to win your time back. That's your financial freedom.
Yep.
So in our case, our lifestyle has we're still building, but our time is we're valuable now. We know how much our time is worth. So I went from making maybe $20, $25 an hour to now we did the math. I think we was at a meeting and we was over cigars, and you was telling me like, hey, do this in your calculator and tell me how much you're worth an hour, right? So
let's do that right now for purpose of the podcast. Yeah. So let's say you're making $400,000 a year. Uh-huh. Divide that by 2080, because that's how many hours people work on a 40-hour work week. You're now worth $192 an hour.
So not. You just showed me. You just showed me how much my time is per hour. So, anybody looking for an employee, you got to pay me $192.
Yeah. So in other words, you're unemployable.
Not at all.
So you're your own boss.
Yeah.
Now back to this article is the most popular solution was eliminating the payroll tax cap for those who earn more than $400,000 a year. In other words, you have to charge employers more. Because if you eliminate the payroll tax cap, right? Mm-hmm. If I'm an employer, I'm limited to how much I pay in payroll tax based on the payroll tax cap. Mm-hmm. But if I pay you more money, guess what happens to that payroll tax cap if they bust it? It taxes the business owner more. Mm-hmm. As current payroll taxes only apply to income up to $176,000 for those in 2025. Another widely supported option was gradually increasing the payroll tax rates from 6.2 to 7.2% for both employees and employers, which would provide long-term stability without creating an immediate financial burden on workers. So in other words, you and I, the thought process here is both the employee has to put more money towards Social Security, and then the entrepreneur, the employer, has got to pay more in payroll tax. You hire people, you pay people on your staff. By the way, was that job ever created had you not gone in business for yourself?
Not at all.
See, so in other words, you created jobs.
Yeah.
So now they're going to penalize you from creating a job?
Yeah.
See that's the thought process. By the way, what do you guys think? What do you think the solution is in fixing the Social Security program? I mean, I like the fact that, listen, love him or hate him, I love the fact that Elon Musk goes in there, pops open the hood and says, hey, what we got going on in here? Now, some of the things that, people found that, he found that Social Security payments are going people 300 years old or 250 years old, there's found to be, fact checked and not to be true. But the premise is true though. How do we know that people are out there getting a paycheck and then been long gone, but somehow, some way, the family or somebody at that age is still cashing those Social Security checks because they haven't submitted the death certificate?
Wow. I've been seeing that. I mean, that's wild to know somebody they've been getting Social Security checks until 300 years ago they passed away.
Well, FDR created the Social Security system in 1935, right? Mm-hmm. The greatest social program out there for help the common person. But in 1935, Kendrick, by the way, let's Google this. Okay. What was the average life expectancy in 1935? So average life expectancy in 1935. This is when Social Security was created. Yeah, the average life expectancy at birth in the United States was around 61.7 years.
Wow.
So when we're supposed to get Social Security? 62.
62, okay.
So he said it in an age where most people are dying already. Today, bro, who's 62? You can count like countless people. Yeah. I mean, look at Ron Osborne in our office.
Yeah.
Doing jump splits.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's in his early 60s.
Yeah.
He's long from being put in. But when Social Security was created, think about this. 62 years old is when you died. So in other words, he created a program where most people weren't what?
Yeah, living.
Then we're going to get it.
Yeah.
And so now, what's the problem? Most people in America are getting it. Yep. Because people are living.
Well, that's why they cut. That's why they moved from the pension to the 401k because of what you just looked up. Because I mean, more people are living longer, and these companies are losing people living into their 70s, 80s, and 90s with modern day medicines and people working out and eating the right food and whatever the case may be.
And then the pensions, like for example, when I was in the military, it said, I mean, if you do 20 years, whatever you got paid that last year of your career, if you're a first sergeant, you're a sergeant major, 50% of that's going to be your salary for the rest of your life. That's your pension for the rest of your life. So by the time I got, and I did 8 years. By the time I got it 8 years later, they changed that thing.
Yeah.
They said it dropped down to 40%, and it was the average of your last 3 years. So if you have a pension, for those of you who have a pension, you're paying pension dues. Guess what they're going to do too as well long term? Since less people are coming in and working and more people are collecting, they're going to adjust your pension. They're going to make sure that they delay, just like with Social Security. Like before the retirement age of Social Security was 65. Now, after 1970, they're delaying to 67, 68, pushing to 70, because they want to delay when they pay most people. Yeah.
And that goes back to the, like I said earlier, the 4% rule. I mean, if you have $1 million saved up.
Yeah, explain the 4% rule. So, tell us.
Okay. So if you have $1 million saved up, right? What's 4% of $1 million?
40 grand.
40 grand, right? And we're not even talking about taxes yet.
That's right. Let's assume it's like an IRA.
Exactly.
Or 401k. Yeah.
So that's monthly, give or take $3 grand and some change, right? Can you live that lifestyle? But the question is, will you have $1 million at 65 in your 401k, right? And most people make over 40 grand with a career, degree, whatever the case may be. So if you're making 70, 80 grand, like I was in mental health, right? You need to have at least 2 million saved up.
That's right.
Or you're on track to have 2 million saved up. But the average retirement account right now in the U.S., some people might have more, some might have less. It's like $255,000, $260,000.
It's pathetic what people have saved.
Right?
Yeah.
So what's 4% of that? 4% of that is about $10,200. You do it for, break that down for 12 months. That's $800, $700 a month. Can you live off that? And that's why they're trying to save Social Security.
Yeah.
Because if you don't save Social Security, you're basically on track to live the rest of your life.
And I think what this plan
work the rest of your life.
That's right. You're working the rest of your life. And what's this thought process and this article is saying that socially speaking, every American is responsible for everybody's retirement. Yep. That's why you're sticking everybody with taxes. I don't agree. So if you want to retire, live out the government plan, and by the way, the more and more things go on in America, that's why this podcast exists. That's why guys like you and I exist. And a lot of guys don't like us because we're making people recreate themselves.
Yeah.
What an annoying thing to do.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people don't like change, but that's exactly what they need in their life.
Yeah.
And if you have the courage to stick around, you have the courage to listen to us, you have the courage to implement a formula or pattern of success into your life, regardless with us or not, you're going to have to do it. Because think about this too, bro. Think how much, when I was going through my college possibilities back in the 90s, a 4-year college degree over 4 years was $30,000. All 4 years.
Wow.
Today, what's the all 4 years?
I mean, you
100,000?
100,000, 120,000.
Okay.
Yeah, 4-year university.
Fast forward that 30 years.
Wow.
$300,000 for a college degree?
Yeah. Inflation, taxation, man, and every yeah, it's wild.
People are freaking out about home prices and gas prices. I mean, even here in Dallas, when I was thinking about moving out here in 2019, it was $100,000 for a house here in Plano. In Plano, $150,000 for a house in Plano, maybe $200,000. Today, a house in Plano in Frisco, $400,000 or $500,000.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years later.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said, so I've been reading these books, man. Secrets of the Millionaire.
Yes.
Yeah, man. And it talks about, it says, look, the only time you're actually growing is when you're uncomfortable, right? So here's the equation. It says CZ equals WZ. That's comfort zone equals your wealth zone.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if we don't get out of our comfort zone, right? I know we giving you the stats. You do this podcast, every week, right? Giving you stats about finances. If you're not, doing nothing with it and implementing these strategies, I mean, you'll be a victim of what's going on instead of actually, most of the time people are waiting for the government to give them a handout, which I understand some people are in situations where they're disability and they're disabled where they can't do certain things. But for the most part, man, some people are able to get out and
sound mind, sound body. They're just freaking lazy.
Exactly.
Want to make excuses. Yep. And then want to blame everybody for why they're not financially successful.
Yep.
When guys like me and you are busting tail and doing our best to change our lives.
Then Patrick Bet-David, he came out, I don't know if you saw the tweet, he said, one of life's strangest contradictions, the busiest people always find time while the laziest are always busy. He said it's an absolute truth that if you want to get something done, just ask a busy person.
Yeah, slam dunk, bro. Slam dunk. When you're looking at the secrets of the millionaire mind, he talks about the wealth files, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta switch out your files.
Yeah.
Now you gotta look, for example, our phones. What do the apps do on our phones? Software upgrades. So every time you connect and you're sleeping, whatever your phone's charged, guess what? Behind the scenes, what your phone is doing? It's upgrading, it's updating.
Yeah.
So when it comes to financial literacy, it comes to wealth knowledge. Guess what everybody's got to do? They got to upgrade their wealth knowledge. Well, speaking of upgrades, there's 11 cities where home prices are falling the most. U.S. home median prices dipped to $402,000 in December 2024, down from $410,000 in 2023, per Realtor.com. San Francisco saw the biggest drop. Prices fell 10.9% year over year to $889,000. Wow. Average house in San Francisco, $889,000. High mortgage rates and increased financing costs have kept many buyers out of the market, reducing competition. Miami is down 9.9%. Austin is 7.7% negative decline. These major declines after attracting buyers during the pandemic due to affordability and space. Kansas City, Missouri, and Tampa, Florida also saw consistent price declines throughout 2024. So here's our top. Once you do this, once you take 11 through 6, and I'll do 1 through 5. So the top 11 cities with the largest home prices drops in December 2024. Let's start with number 11.
Nashville, Tennessee.
That's where my sister's at.
$537,450. Number 10, Orlando, Florida. Okay, $419.
Down 4.3%.
Yep. Number 9, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Shout out to our friends Jamal and Alicia Akbar.
The Nasty Natty. $319,000. That's down 4.8%. And then coming in number 8, Phoenix, Arizona. $499,000. $995, down 5.1%.
Mm-hmm.
Number 7, Denver, Colorado, $577,350, down negative 5.4%. And then number 6, Jacksonville, Florida,
Tax.
$384,500, and they're down 5.7%.
Number 5, we Tampa, Florida. $395,000 for the average house out there, down 6%. Number 4, believe this or not, Kansas City, Missouri, $369,000, down 7.5%. Number 3, Austin, Texas. By the way, Kendrick, did you know that Fort Worth passed up Austin, Texas as the 4th largest city in all of Texas?
Wow.
Yeah. Our good friend, shout out to George Palaio out there in the Unity team. But Austin, Texas, $498,500, down 7.7% in Austin, Texas. Number 2, Miami, down $522,000, down to $522,500, down 9.9%. And number 1 overall, down 10.9% is San Francisco at $889,500. So, in your opinion, why do you think these home prices are going down? And by the way, why is Dallas prices going up?
So first off, I mean, who can afford these? I mean, we just went over the stats. I mean, more than 59% of Americans don't have $1,000 saved.
Yep.
So if they don't have $1,000 saved,
Yep.
I mean, who's going to buy these homes, right? So they had to do something to correct the market and try to get some buyers and get some people living in those homes. But yeah, that's what's going on, Matt.
I think every city has its own individual story about in inflow, outflow, supply, and demand. I can say here for Dallas now being the 2nd biggest financial hub now in America. Yeah. The New York Stock Exchange, Chicago, just relocated from Chicago to Dallas. Yeah. NASDAQ just started an office here. The Texas Wall Street is going to be is going to open online for next year, 2026. Welcome to the Wall Street of the South. And so Dallas has become a financial hub, and 385,000 jobs in finance has just been created in Dallas.
Yeah. When we run the meetings, you always ask, you say, "Hey man, who's actually from Dallas?" We're looking around. It's probably less than half the room.
Yeah.
You say, well, who relocated to Dallas, Texas? And like more than 60% of the room they raised their hands. So,
well, me and you both.
Yeah.
Chicago, New Orleans, right? We now call Dallas home. So, by the way, we had an event last Thursday called Cigars, Wealth, and Whiskey. We had a blast. Well, by the way, what was your biggest takeaway, Seem? Because I asked the same question to this audience.
Man, just first off, just to see you recreate yourself, and getting you haven't been in Dallas long, and you're the mayor of the city, like you're getting people together, networking, and different businesses was there, jewelry, you got all kinds of vendors that sponsored your event, but it was awesome, man, just to see where you're going and where you at in business right now, but. The event in general, man, I connected with a lot of people, and just your network is your net worth,
yes,
right? So I appreciate you putting that together so that I can meet like-minded people and you can learn from different people. I was out there talking to Cedric, right?
Yeah,
he's talking about the trust, and I was just sitting there soaking it all in, man. He's soaking it all in, and he's just telling us how to, how to position yourself with the trust and different things like that. I'm not going to, say everything that he told me, but that's, catch the last podcast that you did with Waka
sure.
and that. But man, the event was awesome. You did one about a few months ago, and I can see how this one is just going to keep getting better and better. Yeah,
it's amazing how we don't make friends. Most people don't make friends after college or high school or the military or the fraternity, whatever, sorority. And so I think if you don't have a strategy on building your net worth, you're going to be building a very isolated, lonely life long term. And if new networks are coming in and the city is growing, guess what? The one who can get in front of that wave and start connecting people and get to be in a position of, hey man, I got a guy. And by the way, Sheena and I were natural introverts. But I'm not going to let the benefit of us being an introvert just to want to stay home keep me broke and not being out there and shaking hands. Yeah. And so let's take a look at this clip here of our last Cigars, Wealth, and Whiskey event and see if this is something that you want to attend yourself. Let's check this out.
Welcome to Cigars, Wealth, and Whiskey. by marketing and branding and following the right partnerships in 07, 08, 09, and exploded my business. Experienced person is a valuable asset and a dependable player on your team. At the very least, you want to have a business partner or you want to recruit somebody into your team that has some form of experience. I appreciate you guys, man.
This is my first time ever attending, and this is by far one of the most mind-blowing experiences so far, and it's only an hour in.
Anytime you get to level up and meet like-minded individuals that are trying to grow and just expand their networks, that's what you define when you're here. And also the wisdom that you get from Matt is it's great.
Just being around Matt, being around the people that he brings in, that is honestly could change your life overnight.
Everybody's social, welcoming. Everybody's wanting to genuinely get to know what you're trying to do. Right? So it's good, welcoming environment.
Really motivating, and especially Matt being a Marine, I'm a former Marine, bringing the energy on in here, definitely a lot of energy.
It's actually my first time, and I'm looking at this billboard here thinking that, you know what, I may need to book a section because I'm seriously trying to see how I can grow my business and network more, so I can get myself out there.
So if you guys would like to be part of the Cigars, Wealth, and Whiskey event, and we're doing it now only in Dallas, but we're looking to take it across the country, put your information, website is in the description column, get put on our waiting list. The next one we'll be running is June 12th. We'll be running June 12th in honor of Father's Day weekend.
Let's go. I'm excited, man.
I want to honor fathers this time around.
Let's do it.
We honored networks and business partnership and business plan. This time around, I want to honor and give light to men, fathers out there that are making a difference in our country. So let's go to this next topic. U.S. workers U.S. workers not dying. U.S. workers staying put as fewer. Maybe their income is dying. U.S. workers staying put as fewer quit their jobs. The number of U.S. workers quitting their jobs fell by 11%. So in other words, people are staying put, compared to 39.6 million from the year before, according to the Labor Department data analyzed by the Wall Street Journal, marking a 22% drop from 2022 when the Great Resignation peaked. Remember that Great Resignation, bro? People were like, I'm out of here. I got higher paying job. Today, they're staying still. This decline reflects a labor market shift where employees are opting for job stability rather than seeking new opportunities, in contrast to mass resignation seen in the post-pandemic boom, where job seekers has strong bargaining power. Why do you think this is happening, big dog?
Man, I was reading the article. It was a study by Harvard University, and it was talking about, man, some of these big companies like Apple, ExxonMobil, Target, Tyson Foods, Walmart.
Yeah.
Even some state, some government companies. I mean, they're hiring 18% of people with 9 that don't have degrees. 18. So it's up
more.
So it's up 18% of people who are being hired.
Wow.
Right, that don't have degrees.
Interesting.
And so with that being said, those people are they're fighting for stability. Right, they want, and companies are too. Mm-hmm. Think about it. If you're a boss, right? You running a company. You want your workers to actually stay there for the long term, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, that's what's going on right now. Yeah,
the scary part too, bro, is how much AI is taking over. I was just talking to this guy. This guy, I can't believe I'm saying this. I was talking to this guy after yoga class this morning. After yoga class this morning, shout out to Luke. We're having a conversation today. He asked, hey man, how often are you using ChatGPT? I said, bro, I'm on ChatGPT all the time now. He says, for what? I said, copywriting. I just want to make sure the copy our emails, our copy that we put on our website, copy we put on social media posts, copy we're putting in a PowerPoint presentation. I want to make sure the copy is squared away in ChatGPT so that we just copy paste, make sure the right copy is in a format that we need it. You know what they did, bro? I'm not having to hire a copywriter 40, 50 grand a year now. Mm. I just have to hire an assistant that knows how to use ChatGPT and just quality control it. Now, they may not be the creator and innovator of copywriting, but they know how to quality control something and see whether or not something is interesting to read. It piques curiosity in terms of copyright. So that's one area that even a guy like me that likes to hire people, that I don't need to hire somebody for that job any longer. And so I think people are realizing, shit, maybe, with all this government spending that was going on and businesses taking money for, the PPP loan or whatever the case may be, now a lot of money ain't flying around because here's what's happening around, because now interest rates increased, it stopped capital flow.
Yeah.
So it kept employers from saying, I can hire more, because they didn't have, now they don't have as much money to blow on employees. So I mean, what do you guys think? So for those of you guys watching this, are you finding yourself staying put, or are you seeking opportunities? Put in the comment section below. We want to know, staying put or seeking opportunities? We want to know. Put in the comment section below.
I think both, Matt. I mean, people are staying put at their job
and still
seeking. So I think we're in a time right now where, entrepreneurship or,
it's a good point.
A side hustle is mandatory right now.
Mandatory.
It's mandatory, right? So that's why, Uber and, Lyft and all these, extra, people are doing these side hustles. And most of the people who you receive Uber Eats from and you just have a conversation with them, they have full-time jobs. I had a nurse deliver me food about 2 weeks ago, right? Just to make, single mom just making ends meet, right?
A nurse.
So just think about that. Think about that for a second. That it's both, so people are staying put at their job, but like, hey man, how can I achieve more and earn more money to live a lifestyle?
If that's you and you're seeking opportunity, but when you want to act upon it, make sure you drop in the comments below. Looking for opportunities. We have a link here too as well, that if you want to connect with Kendrick, you want to connect with our guys across the country, you want to, because here's a pattern for success, right? Here's a formula for success. You got to find somebody that is doing something, not just theorizing about it, and find out if they have a pattern that's leading to a successful outcome. And then you got to come on board and say, okay, what was your pattern? And then at the same time, what is the formula for me that will work? Because everybody's in terms of getting the same outcome. Mm-hmm. But Kendrick, you're around. I mean, you see our office. I mean, last month we paid our guys the first 3 weeks of this month we paid our guys over $1.3 million in commission. I mean, that's that's to them. That's not to me. That's to them, right? So, what do you see with people taking economic control under their own power and initiative? What do you see on the other side? When they start seeing the first checks, the second checks, and checks are getting bigger and bigger.
Man, it's exciting. It's exciting, man. To learn a new skill, get out your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And learn the system, learn about money that wasn't taught in our schools. Maybe, our parents just unfortunately didn't know due to, lack of education or knowledge or whatever the case may be. But it's exciting to see somebody come from just brand new, not in the industry, make $1,000, $2,000. Just think about that, an extra $1,500, an extra $1,000 on top of what you're already making. What can that do for you?
Yeah,
pay a car note, pay your mortgage, whatever the case may be. Well, not your mortgage. We just went over the prices, but
you can rent an apartment in a better neighborhood.
Yeah, put you in a better zip code, right?
Better education,
car, whatever the case may be. But it's exciting for me to coach and mentor some of the agents, and just see the look on their faces when they get their first check and they only spent a couple of hours running an appointment or talking to people. But yeah, man, it's exciting. I love to see it.
And I think it's got to be more so than you just selling something just to make extra money on the side. It has to evolve into scaling into a business.
Yes.
That's the problem sometimes. I'm just going to Uber, I'm just going to DoorDash, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but as soon as you turn off that signal,
what's next?
Yeah, you're not getting residual income from that.
Yeah.
It doesn't take on another life outside of you. But when you're creating a business, when you create staff, you create employees, you create people that want to grow and expand, that they want to see this, take another life of itself because of their involvement in it, and they get credit from it from a financial standpoint from doing so. It's got to evolve into a business. And I would also say this. What a lot of people get wrong is that millionaires get there because they have multiple streams of income. That to me is it's a big joke, because how many times have we seen a business card? 18 different things on a business card that they do.
Yeah.
not one do they do well, but credit repair, business credit, life insurance, real estate, personal security, chauffeur, so many different things, certified hood healer. That legit, bro. That's what somebody put on their social.
Yeah.
And they think by just casting this wide net of multiple streams of how to make money, that's how they make money. That would never attract a guy like me to say, oh, that person's good at what they do. Listen, you got to be known. Make your first million. My recommendation, make your first million, 2 million, 3 million in one business first. Because then it'll cause you to create the cash capital and confidence to operate in other fields in different businesses and expand on that vertical and create other offshoots of that. But oftentimes people spend that money, that capital, which is limited in the beginning, and that energy.
Yeah.
Imagine you have 4 or 5 different types of problems.
That's crazy.
Instead of having multiple streams, they got multiple trickles.
I mean, think about if you had to have a serious surgery and your doctor say, hey, man, I specialize in this, and this, and this. And you're like, man, hold up. I need to go get a second opinion.
I specialize in heart surgery, shoe repair.
I can change your brakes.
I can do X-ray too. I mean,
Nope.
I can do X-ray technician. Now you want them good behind that scalpel.
Yeah.
And your customers deserve your very best product and experience that you provide for them instead of always chasing it down. So be good at one thing. My recommendation, be good at one thing. Next one, boomers. Boomers are those born between 1946 and 1964. But boomers are refusing to hand over $84 trillion of wealth to their children. Say, what? Right now, they control about $84 trillion of wealth, are not transferring their fortunes as quickly as expected, with nearly half saying they want to enjoy my money for myself while I'm still alive. A Charles Schwab survey found that only 40% of their assets will be distributed while alive, while the rest will be passed down after death. Billionaire Warren Buffett, whose children are already wealthy, has echoed this sentiment, stating that he will not give them all his money, but expects them to give it away to good causes. Younger generations are twice as likely as boomers to share their wealth while alive, but they may have to wait longer than expected to inherit. Gen X, my generation, aged between 44 and 59, stands to benefit the most from the great wealth transfer, with ultra-wealthy Gen X heirs inheriting fortunes around 46. I tell you this, I don't have any wealthy family members to inherit money from.
Yeah.
According to Wealth X, however, rising healthcare costs and longer lifespans are pushing boomers to hold onto the assets longer, particularly $17 trillion in home equity built from decades of property value growth.
Man. So how many years does wealth last? How many
generations?
How many generations?
Well, they say shirt sleeves in 3 generations.
Okay. So 3 generations.
Mm-hmm.
So this is probably why they want to hold on to the wealth first off. But we just went over that. People are living longer. I mean, they're going to have to hold on to that to those assets, and the rise in healthcare costs is killing our pockets, man. Long-term care, we sit down with our clients all day.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a guy like 2 months ago, and he said that he's kind of financially stable, but he pays 11 to 12 grand for long-term care for his mom.
See, that's it.
Right. And
who was planning for that before? It was hard enough to save money for retirement, not to think that $100,000 a year be going to healthcare.
Yep. And my mom sat down with my grandfather, who was her dad, right? And the last 2 years of his life before he passed, she actually maybe 60-70% of the time sat with him. Right. And when she traveled, even with her husband and was trying to get away with her lifestyle, she brought him, on those trips, and just to kind of watch him and monitor, because no long-term care was in place.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah, man, my folks are, we're about to celebrate their 80th and 85th birthday party here in a second, but they're in a retirement community here in Dallas. And it's $6,000 a month. And on top of it, we got to pay another $4,000 a month because my father needs care. Because my mom, you see how little my mom is.
Yeah.
She's not taking care of she's not lifting them, doing all this with my dad. So we have to hire somebody. Thank God, not long-term care, but long-term care insurance is paying for it. Both sides. So that's why I got involved in this business in 1999, 2000, was not necessarily to think about how to pay for long-term care, but how do I become financially independent? And then What are some of the enemies that would face our way once we get to that point? And one of them I didn't realize was long-term care, but thank God we had a long-term care policy. We have a policy through CNA. CNA is not issuing long-term care policies anymore. So we have an OG policy from early 2000s. But people today with your clients, for example, with National Life Group, with Mutual of Omaha, all these different insurance carriers, what does it mean for you when you're able to explain that to a client that not only do they have retirement savings, not only do they have tax advantage growth, but worst case scenario comes and you don't even have to be 65. Because remember when Jamie Foxx had a stroke last year?
Yeah.
That was a form of home health care, long-term care in itself because he had a rehab from the stroke. But he's got money. A lot of average people don't have money for expenses like
but
that.
even if you have money, you still want to protect that financial home.
Yeah.
We always talk, phone holds the money, right?
That's
So
right.
if you're not protecting your real estate portfolio, your stock market, your savings with the base of life insurance, if something happens, like you say, heart attack, stroke, cancer, you have to exhaust that, your stocks. You have to exhaust your savings. You may have to sell off your real estate just to make ends meet.
Yeah.
So, the life insurance with those living benefits are critical, man. And every time I sit in front of a client, I say, hey, man, do you know anybody who had a heart attack, stroke, cancer? Oh, yeah, in a bad accident. Yeah, okay, how was that financially? Oh, man, it was the worst time of my life, watching them go through that. And when we explain the living benefits, it's a no-brainer. So, like you said, we're not just selling people, policy. Like we're actually helping families with these assets and, exactly what we're talking about here.
Bottom line, would you take 1% of your assets? Would you invest 1% of your assets? Would you take 1% of what you own to protect the other 99% of what you own?
No brainer.
That's what insurance does, man. And oftentimes people think that insurance is a scam. I tell you this, people may think that way because of how people feel towards home health or healthcare. And sadly, that's why the guy, he assassinated the CEO of United Healthcare.
Yeah.
You may feel that way about, if your house is under fire and these insurance companies are slow paying your claims. I get that. But that's not this. This is life insurance, this is retirement planning. These are long-term things where life insurance companies, we've seen, they're paying claims or how does it feel, bro, to know that throughout this up and down the stock market, that none of your clients call you saying, Kendrick, where's my money?
Oh,
how many clients call you worried about where the money's at?
It's the other way around. How many clients are calling us to help them protect their money?
That's what makes us different, brother.
Yep.
Next topic, paycheck to paycheck nation. 59% of Americans wouldn't cover a 1,000 expense with savings. We are essentially a paycheck to paycheck nation, wrote Mark Hamrick, Bankrate's senior economic analyst, as 59% of Americans couldn't cover $1,000 emergency expense with savings. 27% have no emergency savings at all, and 73% are saving less than before, despite cooling inflation and steady unemployment. The New York Fed reports that U.S. consumer debt hit a record $8 trillion in Q3 of 2024, while average credit scores declined in all 50 states. You and I deal with this problem every day.
Every day. That's that. 59% of Americans. Just look at that.
Yeah.
59% of Americans wouldn't cover a 1,000 expense with their savings. So that goes back to either you can be you have to make more money, and that's why I said both. Keep your job, and you have to find a side hustle, or you have to find a business to create, and that's what's going on.
Yeah,
man.
I don't think the American dream anymore, brother, is owning a home, picket fence, dog in the yard, kids running around, right? I think the American dream, bro, is being able to own your own business and have control of your own income.
Yeah.
To me, that's freedom.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel more economically empowered with a house and a picket fence, or do you feel economically empowered because you control your income? You're the boss.
Yeah, controlling the income. And you control your income, you control your time.
All day.
Man. Yeah. So,
with 69% worried about affording living expenses after job loss, Gen Z, 80% feels the most at risk, while baby boomers, 59% are most likely to tap into savings for emergencies. Because if they got emergencies, they got savings. But think about this, though, bro. This is contrary to what people see online. This is why we want to let people know, whatever you see online of everybody living their best life, what does the fact say? Majority of people in America are still living paycheck to paycheck. But according to social media, everybody's a millionaire.
might win. That's crazy.
You know,
man.
everybody's a millionaire on social media. You know, everybody's traveling on social media. Listen, they may have traveled once every 3-4 years and put it on social media, but it's this. I mean, speaking of travel and going all over the world, we've been all over the world. Yeah. We've traveled. What's some places we gone to, bro?
Oh man, you know,
Hawaii is the first one I met.
Yeah,
Maui,
Hawaii, all paid, all expenses paid by
Yeah.
the company, man. But you know, we earned that. I think we went to Bahamas. You know, that was a fun trip, man. Yeah. And
Aruba.
Yep, Aruba. And we're going to what Mexico? Where we going next?
We're going to Playa del Carmen in June.
Yeah, so I missed y'all in
Canada.
No, we went to Canada.
So we went to Canada. That's right. Okay.
What was the one before that? Went to
with
the Bora Bora.
Bora
Bora. I missed it. I was looking at your Instagram. Living your best life, right? But yeah, man. Like the reality is, the 59% of Americans that are living paycheck to paycheck, right? How many of those are actually, you know, Americans with college degrees?
Yeah.
So even with me, even before I started this business, I still was living paycheck to paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
Like I might have had maybe a little bit of savings where like, hey man, if something went wrong, I might have had like, you know, you want to have at least 6 to 12 months of savings, you know, financially, but I had maybe like 1 or 2 months of savings if like my job got cut.
Yeah.
So that's still living paycheck to paycheck. That's not no comfort knowing that, hey man, I need this check every 2 weeks, every month, right? So that's the scary part, man, that of the 59%, I mean, how many are actually people with college degrees, not just a college degree, but a master's degree?
Bam. They got
right. So that when you look at that, that's why we talk about those in our meetings, right?
Yeah.
You know, the cost of living then versus now is mandatory for you to increase your income.
Yeah.
Because everything is tripling, quadrupling, but the median income is basically staying the same. I mean, you go from the average household made about 50 something grand back then, and then now it's only like 60. So, but everything is doubling, tripling, and quadrupling.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
So how can you keep up with inflation and taxation?
If you are not being proactive on leveling up your money game, and we're saying it year after year after year after year, brother, I can't tell you how many times I've said this to people over the last 25 years of my career. When I decided to become an entrepreneur 25 years ago, I've been doing this now going on 26 years. I said, I'm going to make a difference in my life. I was 24 years old, 25 years old. Make a difference in my life. I'm going to make a difference in my life. So I did. I could continue to progress. Friends in the Marine Corps, family members back home. Go on ahead, we'll catch up with you. You go and do it. Or it's not meant for me, it's not built for me. Bro, well, I blinked 25, 26 years later, they still haven't done much with their retirement savings. They still haven't done much, right? They've just been kind of like this and this and that. And now when I see them, hey man, so cool to see you win. Bro, we could have won together. We could have done this together. So, you know, I would say the financial game is, I would say, an 80% mindset, emotional, spiritual type game. The how is easy. Like, think about it. How hard is it to do our business? Phone's on Monday nights.
Pick up the phone.
Pick up the phone. Do our workshops on Tuesday.
Use your mouth. Talk to people.
Right?
Right.
And, you know, follow up.
That's it.
You know, put yourself out there, shake some damn hands.
That's it.
Have fun doing it. Smoke cigars and drink whiskey. You know, wherever you go. If you don't smoke cigars and drink whiskey, maybe you find people at church. You find people at your kids' classes. You know, Chris Hart mentioned something pretty profound. He said, listen, when I saw Champ CJ win his championship in a silver gloves competition, he didn't get the championship, but he lost. He says, bro, I see how many dads vicariously are living through their sons' victories versus having their own victories themselves. And they put so much unnecessary pressure on a kid to win because they're not winning in their life, but they want the kid to win. It's like playing a video game or yelling at a screen and yelling at your favorite sports team because they're not winning. Well, what about you, bro? You know, why are you yelling at the screen? My team? What do you have any ownership in that team? Do they care whether or not you're cheering for them or not?
Yeah,
that ain't your team. That's the owner's team. That's the league's team. Hey, you just happen to wear their jersey and they're making money with you wearing their jersey. But you got to get right. You got to plead for your team, your last name team.
It's bad, man. I was looking on social media not long ago, and two guys got into it about arguing over sports.
Oh, jeez.
And one of them got killed. Like, you fussing over you, and it wasn't even a bet. It wasn't a bet or nothing. They was going back and forth about a team who was better, and we've been in those conversations, when we back then. But it got that heated where they went back and forth about something, and the guy got killed. It's crazy, man.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, small minds discuss people." Figure out which mind you want. You want a great mind? You want an average mind? You want a small mind? If I see another debate, heated debate about who the GOAT of basketball is, nauseating to me right now, bro. Because you already know it's Michael Jordan. It's already Michael. There's nothing Michael can do, nothing LeBron could do to beat Michael. He's the GOAT. By the way, for those of you who is the GOAT, Michael Jordan or LeBron. But to me, I mean, I'm laughing at it now. We're making fun of it.
Yeah.
But seriously, though, in certain conversations, it's like it ruins their day to have that conversation.
You know what, Matt? I don't know if you know this, but in New Orleans, when the Saints win, the murder rate is down that week. No, I'm serious. It's a fact. And it's crazy that the Saints, New Orleans Saints, if you're a Saint, y'all need to win
to keep the murder down.
Keep the murder rate down, right?
So, well, by the way, thankfully, people are positively distracted because when the Saints win.
Right.
Same thing in the Philippines too. When Manny Pacquiao fights, the whole country shuts down. But let's talk about this video here, because I'd love your reaction to this, because we got a video out there of you and I rocking a phone zone together, helping people make phone calls to establish their business. And even you, there's a scene in that video where even you are coachable enough to take my feedback to help you make a better phone call and have a better outcome on that. And you're making money. And so let's take a quick look at this video on what is going on with Gen Zs having to take classes on how to make phone calls.
Gen Zs are now taking classes on how to make phone calls. So it's called telephobia, and it's a fear or anxiety around making and receiving telephone calls. 75% of them say they never answer a phone call. But this is causing problems for when employers reach out for interviews, or Gen Zs have to make a phone call to make a dentist appointment or something. And many students struggle with phone interviews because they haven't had the chance to practice. So now workshops are being held to help them feel more confident, with students practicing everyday calls like making doctor's appointments. One career advisor is suggesting people practice with like a note card with like cheat notes, choosing a quiet space, and using breathing exercises to calm the nerves, reminding students that they are in charge of the phone call, and telling students, quote, "If this telephone call is something that I do not want, I have the choice to end the phone call, and that gives me power."
Man, is that for real?
It's on CNBC. It must be true.
Right.
But do you see the other guy's face? Look at his, look at his face.
Like, what?
Look at his face. But by the way, we make phone calls every day.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Like if I call it the double dial. It says, "Oh, Matt, people aren't calling me back. People never pick up." I know they didn't pick up. That's why you got to double dial.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, think about this. How many times do you answer a phone number calling you and you don't have them locked in your phone? You don't know who it is.
Yeah.
Do you naturally want to pick it up?
Now
you do.
Business.
Now you do.
Yeah, but before the business, probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why you got to call twice. Because a strange number calls you twice, it's like, yo, that's probably somebody that knows me, right? That knows my number.
Yeah. And I'm always rocking the phone, and I'll be calling, making calls for some agents, and they won't answer. I'll call twice, and then you'll get a text, "Who this?" So that lets you know, right? That lets you know. So
I had mine in text.
Yeah.
Or how many times have you gotten in a text argument with somebody for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, going back and forth, which it could have been a 2-minute conversation? Because how many times do we misread a message?
Yeah.
It reminds me of that Key and Peele skit they did where he's in a good mood and the guy's like, "You want to meet up for a bar?" He goes, yeah, sure, why not? And the guy's like, "Sure, why not? That's the way you got to respond to me," because you don't know what mood people are in when they're receiving the message, because you're just reading words. You don't see the emotion of how it's being said. But
why you think that's happening, Matt? What's your take on it?
Well, people are just locked in. As much as this tool helps, the tool can also be so overused that I often say people are connected but not connecting. It's a whole big reason why I do Cigars, Wealth, and Whiskey. There's a reason why we do Tuesday night. You bring your team there too as well, and we connect because not only is our top guys, because not everyone can go on Tuesday nights, but our top guys come out because I want them to start interacting. And think about what we've done too in our coaching and mentorship, our partnership in the Dallas office, how we got more people communicating and talking through issues. And that's resulting not in just better financial outcomes in their life, but better marriages, better parent relationships, et cetera, because the way the enemy gets us is to get us to stop talking to people, to cut that line of communication where so many different assumptions are thought about by both parties. Then unless you have the crucial conversation, things never really come about.
Yeah, and I think for me, I was the guy, like I said, I grew up in New Orleans, and I was a person who I observed, but I didn't say a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So now when my mom see me like on this, she'll see this podcast. Hey mom,
how you doing, mom? He's doing so good.
But like she see me on social media, she'll see a clip at me speaking at in Las Vegas, or she'll see me a clip with our last event, and she'd be like I couldn't get you to talk when you was here. But I think people have to get in their environment, or get around people to effectively learn communication skills and different things like that. So I've gotten better. Even with me. So I think even before me becoming an entrepreneur, that was probably me in a sense. I mean, not to that point, I can call and make a doctor's appointment or whatever the case may be. But if I didn't have to speak, I wouldn't speak. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. So even in college, people will walk past me and be like, hey man, you couldn't speak? Like, I hate when people say that. Yeah, you couldn't speak. Like, you saw me and you didn't speak. So, but yeah, man, I think it's all about, how you grew up and different things like that sometimes. But like you said, there's also maybe a social awkwardness where people just, stuck in their phones on social media, just swiping and DMing and messaging all day. So when they get a phone call, they'll actually hit the decline button and send you a message because that's just what they're doing now.
Here's the thing though. This is also an advantage. If you're out there, you're a Gen Z, but you have the courage to just make phone calls, you're ahead of everybody in your peer group. You're so much further ahead. Before, back in the day, 80s and 90s, everybody's making phone calls. So today, if nobody's, or less people today are making phone calls and you are willing to do it, you're willing to take courage, it's an easier barrier just to beat everybody just by making phone calls and connecting with people. And so, big reason why people are probably being paycheck to paycheck and have nothing to say because they're not communicating their problems and working through and finding solutions. Speaking of finding solutions, this guy named Elon Musk is just tearing up. We're talking about, the spending of money, Social Security, et cetera, et cetera. Rogan's reading off certain things here that I think we need to pay attention because this is how they're spending our tax money. Because otherwise, if they can spend money for these type of things, I think they can redirect it to things that really matter here in America versus the foolishness of how they're spending money. So let's take a look at what Rogan hears and how $330 million to help Afghanis grow crops. Let's take a look at what Rogan here is reading Elon Musk's report. Let's take a look at this.
Read off some of the things that this guy, Kanakota the Great, on Twitter listed. And this is off the Jesse Waters show. USAID, $20 million for Iraqi Sesame Street, $2 million for Moroccan pottery classes, $11 million to tell Vietnam to stop burning trash, $27 million to give gift bags to illegals. $27 million. $330 million to help Afghanis grow crops. Crops.
Yeah.
I wonder what those crops are. What's their biggest crop, Brett?
It's going to be the poppy seeds for bagels, I'm thinking.
$200 million on an unused Afghani dam, $250 million on an unused Afghani road. This is wild.
$300 million of that, man.
I mean, some of this stuff is really, really crazy.
So that's $40 billion, bro, of money that could be reinvested to creating better school system, creating better roads, creating better infrastructure, improving our airports, improving financial literacy. So many different things that $40 billion can be used, improving our social security system. Yeah. So, when you hear the government, and this is, in my opinion, so many people look at this as a Republican thing or a Democrat thing. But I look at this as, I really don't look at it through that lens. I look at this as from a financial perspective. Wasteful spending is wasteful spending.
Yeah. Man, these guys need to. I know, man, who they need to take some classes. They need to have some type of financial literacy of the basic. I mean,
Who approved this?
Like exactly. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
And are you mad at the guy that found the foolishness, or should you be mad at the people who created the foolishness?
Exactly, created it. Right? Because I'm thankful for guys like him who can point that stuff out. But who knows? The average person who's paying taxes daily, they don't know where their money is going. They just doing what they're supposed to be doing.
And that's what Doge is creating light to,
Yeah.
you know. And so, Byron Donald here. Let's take a look at this other clip here. Byron Donald is having a reaction on the closing of the Department of Education. Now, you're an educated guy,
Yeah.
right? And so, let's take a look at what Byron Donald here has to say on the Bill Maher show about the closing down of the Department of Education.
The public is aware of the mismanagement, the improper payments.
What about
etc.
the Department of Education? Now, I don't know that much about it, but I've never read good things. Rahm Emanuel, who I agree with on almost everything, here was a quote. He said, "A third of 8th graders can't read, and now he wants to close the department." And I thought, that's probably why they can't read. Or at least partly. I mean, the numbers keep getting worse and worse and worse. And I don't know if the Department of Education is anything I mean, it doesn't really, I don't know what it does, except take money. It's sort of a middleman. It doesn't like run classrooms or do stuff like that. I don't think it makes policy. So where are you on something like that?
I think that the Department of Education has to essentially be closed. A lot of the authorities got to get sent back to the states. The dollars we appropriate actually need to go directly into the hands of parents so that they can use those resources in their states and in their communities to find the best outcome for their children. When the Department of Ed was created in 1977, our reading scores and math scores for kids 4th and 8th grade were higher than they are today. So it's not worked.
I mean, I read this, I'm stealing this from Nellie Bowles' column, but in the Michigan, the contract from the teachers union says, you cannot be fired for getting caught drunk as a teacher until you do it for a 5th time.
What?
Yeah, the first 4 times, you're good.
They didn't take the Pete Hegseth vow.
Counseling.
I will stop drinking when I start the job.
And also, if you're caught selling drugs twice, that's when we fire you. The
Not
first
once.
time, you're good.
That's insane.
I mean, it is insane.
Yeah, it is.
So it's not like there isn't insanity that has to be addressed. And it's not like the kids are getting smarter.
That's true. So if you're investing in something for the last, 40, 50 years, and people aren't getting any better, would that be considered a failed program, failed department?
Yeah, so I was looking it up, Matt, and you know, even though I have a master's degree, a bachelor's degree, I finished high school. I'm looking at it. It says the mission of the Department of Education is to promote student achievement in preparation for global competitiveness by fostering educational excellence and ensuring equal access. So
yes,
my take on it, the Department of Education, I'm not, it's not something that I've, been actually looking into, but just from reading this, looking it up before the podcast, I'm looking at the equal access part. So, I went to HBCU, and you went to the games.
For sure, baby.
Right?
Texas
The
State
bands,
Fair.
right?
I love
Grambling
it.
State versus Preview, right? But I don't know how this will impact, HBCUs. I don't know how to impact the school system. But just to see what the Department of Education stands for, ensuring equal access, I know if it's been around for 40, 50 years, if you go back 40, 50 years, that means, African-American, students didn't have access to actually go to certain schools. So with that being said, I don't know if it's going to affect that, but if it does, I mean, that's a problem in itself. But if the Department of Education is, misusing funds or things are not getting better, so I'm kind of neutral. I don't know exactly. I'm gonna start looking more into that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that affects the equal access or, African American students having an opportunity. I know he said that they're not getting better.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if the Department of Education is there to get better, but as far as the curriculums and the teachers that you have in place, that's the the way the kids actually get better. But Department of Insurance, if it's for equal access, I mean, I'm for it. But if they're misusing funds and things are not working, I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
How much do you think the budget is for the federal education budget?
I'm not sure how much.
Do you think it's in the trillions? I mean, everything's.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
It's only $268 billion.
Only.
So the federal education budget, the Department of Education's budget was approximately $268 billion. Now here's a problem: about 25% of this budget actually got to the states. So 25% of this budget, equating to $67 billion, was distributed to states, localities, and tribes to support K-12 education, particularly targeting low-income and special education. For example, Texas received approximately $3.9 billion from federal funding. That's it. So it's not like it's a large amount. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Afghanistan. Look at the thing we just discussed. $40 billion going to Afghanistan. But the entire state of Texas, the budget we would receive from the federal government in terms of the Department of Education was only $3.9 billion. California, the Los Angeles Unified School District, heavily reliant on federal funds, faces severe consequences, however, if these funds decline, because the local municipality hasn't been investing in their own education. Impact on local districts, and for example, Michigan, Midland Public Schools anticipates a potential loss of $1.7 million in federal title funding, which supports academic and support staff. So they got to find out ways to make up the $1.7 million shortfall. And so you're right. You're right in these areas, which now puts pressure on who? You think it puts pressure on the citizens, or who should it put pressure on? The school board.
Exactly.
They ought to be doing their job.
Yeah.
And instead of worrying about things that really don't matter in the classroom, the school board now, in my opinion, is now going to be putting on a lot of pressure to balance the budget, fundraisings, making sure money here isn't spent unnecessarily, because 25% of everything that's spent in the federal budget has only been sent to. So my thing is, where does the other 75% go?
Where's it going? Yeah.
So it stays in some form of reference. By the way, what do you guys think? If you guys are watching this, what do you guys think about the Department of Education being shut down? I like the fact that states are being able to make their own decision about it and where they're going with it, because that requires now new leadership at the state level. And listen, Trump's doing everything he can to cut the deficit, to make sure we stop the spending that's going on in America, because if we stop the spending, then we can start cutting the deficit. Because if we start to cut the deficit, think about this, bro, $800 billion of debt we owe China.
Crazy.
Almost $1 trillion, right? So if we don't pay off the debt, you know this, if we don't pay off the debt, what do we have to pay? Interest.
Yep, interest.
So guess who's funding and financing through interest payments our greatest enemy? Us as the American taxpayer.
Yep.
So if we can start cutting the deficit, we can start getting rid of debt. But in order for us to start doing that, we got to stop spending.
Yeah.
So this is the portion where, it's going to hurt for a minute. How long it's going to hurt, we don't know. But the way things are going, it's not working. And the bigger dependency is now depending on the government or state government or federal government. We don't want that. Having freedom is independence. I want independence in this country. I think we want independence in our cities and states, our homes. The last thing we want is to be forced to finance things that we don't individually benefit the most from. So, any final thoughts, brother, as we wrap up this podcast? Man, you've been very helpful, man, in sharing these thoughts, topics, ideas.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me again. Yeah, man. Just going over these updated current events. But yeah, man, if you're out there and you looking to, get in a better spot financially, the opportunities are out there, man. You see what's going on with the economy. Retirement crisis. People don't have, $1,000 saved. It's time for you to make change.
Bingo.
Right?
Big lights telling you to change.
There you go.
You got to recreate yourself.
Yeah, don't sit back and wait for. You always say this, man. It doesn't matter what's going on in the White House. It matters what's going on in your house. So, whatever you agree with, disagree with, that's why you are able to vote. I mean, I'm gonna do some more research for me about the Department of Insurance.
Or
I mean,
education.
I said Department of Insurance. 'cause I'm-
Insurance guy.
Department of Education. So, but yeah, you know, get out there and vote. You know, in your local areas, and you know, voice your opinion.
Yeah, and just don't create your own political opinion or opinion on issues just by what you see on social media.
Yeah,
because the majority of that stuff is bots or propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
You know, research into a thought and idea from multiple sources. So that being said, guys, every week we do the 7 Figure Squad podcast, bringing local celebrities and thought leaders into our podcast. Please put your biggest takeaway in the comment section below. With that being said, if you haven't done so yet, please hit subscribe and please share this with other people that you know would benefit from having a millionaire mentality and making sure they get to 7 figures here sooner than later. That being said, from Dallas, Texas, I'm your money smart guy, and until we meet again, continue to live smart, continue to love smart, and be money smart today.